Hi, friends. It's so good to be here with you. It has been a while since I have seen you. So, Deb here, the founder of the Freedom Embodied Academy, the Congruence Collective, Freedom from Food Addiction, all this good stuff. I'm so inspired. Just came off of this incredible retreat with some of the ladies from the Freedom Embodied Academy. And, what I want to talk about today is something that ties in directly into the experience that I come across with so many of the people who I speak to in this community. Because the people in this community, you who are listening right now, are constantly in this process of evolution and growth and expansion. And so there's this constant up-leveling that's going on. And what I wanted to share with you today, because this was so clear when I was, with these women this weekend, and there were such incredible breakthroughs and people literally changing before our eyes, coming in one way and leaving a completely different way, speaking differently, having such dramatic shifts in the way that they think about life, think about themselves, experience these things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there is this common theme that I see that happens right before we are about to have a massive breakthrough, right before you are ready to completely change, right before you're ready to step into your next level of freedom. There is something that happens, and I want to talk about that thing, because this is something that we can start to recognize, and the sooner we can recognize it, we can see it for what it is. And we can stop thinking that it is a reason that we are never going to get this, that we're not going to change. We can actually see it for what it is, which is an access point that is a launching pad for our next level. So what is that thing? So here is the thing. When you are about to have a massive breakthrough, a massive up-leveling, when you are about to step into your next level of freedom, this is what will happen. All your stuff will come up. You will get in massive resistance. Think about it. It's like our ego was trying so desperately to hold on to the identity that we know, the identity that keeps us in a familiar place, the identity that seems to be safe. And so when things start to push up against the boundary or the border of that familiarity zone, our ego gets a little hot under the collar and it starts to kick up a fuss. And so there's lots of things that happen when we get into this massive resistance. And this is what I want to share with you today. Hey, Michaela, so good to see you. This is what I want to share with you today, because they're like top 10 signs that you're in resistance. I know it's only 5. 10 signs that you're in resistance, and that this resistance is not a bad thing. This is actually an access point and a launching pad for you to actually leap into that next level of freedom or transformation or breakthrough or change or whatever the thing is that you are most wanting right now. So listen up. Here are these 10 things. I'm going to go through them. I'm going to go in descending order, starting with number 10. So number 10 is, notice if you are getting into a distraction pattern, or if all of a sudden you're getting really busy. So distraction pattern, it's like if you imagine, those notifications that pop up on your phone, like imagine that your mind is constantly doing that, right? You've got this like your mind pops up like, oh wait, you've got to go turn the iron off. Oh wait, you've got to go call this person. Oh wait, you've got to go send this email. Wait, you just got to go to the store. You've got to go do this. It's like this constant ticker tape of, wait, I've got to go do this. I've got to go do that. And we have this sense of urgency with all of it that it just distracts us from whatever we're actually right in front of. We'll just kind of like, oh no, I really got to go do this right now. And oh my gosh, I don't have time anymore to go and deal with the thing that I know deep down I got to deal with, but I'm so distracted now that I can't remember what that is. So that's number 10. And by the way, if you recognize any of these patterns, no judgment, just write the word that you recognize in the comments so I know that you're with me. I know that you're tracking this conversation. Number 9 is busyness. So again, moving on from the distraction conversation is just busyness. It's overbooking our calendar. It's that, oh my gosh, I've got to get up early, I've got to go to work, and then this like giving everything to everyone else and like running all around and being overcommitted and then racing home and having 5 million things you have to do and all these different commitments. And so what we do is that we make ourselves so busy that we never have the time to get real with what's really going on. And so again, distraction and busyness, these are these things that we do. These are some of the resistance patterns that we get into. So just notice if any of that's going on for you. If you overcommit yourself, if you always have this like, you know, notifications popping up in your head all the time or popping up in your phone, and then I've got to respond to this person, and it's just taking you in all different places and you're scattered. Just notice if that happens for you. Another huge one, number 8. Number 8 is sleepiness. This was something that I used to get all the time. And frankly, because I mean, let's face it, we are all always up leveling. And so we all reach places where we're pushing up against the boundary or the barrier of our own familiarity zone. And so I don't care if you've been doing personal development work for, 20 plus years, we're all going to get that thing. And so sleepiness is one of those ones that I must admit that I will get sometimes, and you just all of a sudden get so exhausted, like incredibly exhausted, like you're jet lagged, kind of exhausted. That is absolutely one of those resistance patterns. So just notice it, just recognize it, no judgment, no harm. But just know if that comes up for you. Again, it is not a sign that you need to go take a nap and you're never going to get this. It is a sign that you are just on the brink of a massive breakthrough. Okay, so that is number 8. Number 7 is sickness or illness. So I'm not insinuating that if you have some serious illness that is all resistance. That is everybody's own journey to be on. But if you are constantly getting sick, if you're constantly living out of alignment with yourself, like for me personally, I used to get sick all the time because I was constantly pushing myself, pushing my, taking coffee instead of going to take a nap, like pushing myself past the point of exhaustion, overworking, total workaholic, total perfectionist. And so I was constantly like very, very headstrong, trying to push my agenda along, trying to get things, working them out, trying to figure everything out. And what that did was that constantly set me up for this state of being sick and exhausted. And so if you're somebody who gets sick, or if you all of a sudden feel like you're just getting sick and now that sickness is taking you out of the game and now you've got to go and address that and you can't get on with what you're here to do, just these are all invitations to just start to go within and say, hey, I wonder if that pattern that goes on for me is one of the things that Deb is talking about. No judgment, we're just noticing, we're just looking at these things. If you do relate to one of the words and you want to be honest about it, go ahead and put that word in the comments, and we'll just know that you are really taking an empowered step to be honest with yourself, which is like the first step out of 3-step process. It's the first step to actually moving beyond this pattern. Okay, so number 6 follows from number 7, and this is aches and pains. So again, our body will hold on to the very conflict that we are struggling with. Our body will start to act that out, literally like playing charades with us. And so it's very, very common to get aches, pains, headaches, body aches, shoulder aches, like, wearing the weight of the world on your shoulders, back aches, all this kind of stuff. Very, very common. So notice that you get aches and pains and tension, and that stuff is just a whole distraction pattern in and of itself. I used to deal with a lot of chronic pain, and I know the experience of pain just taking you out of the game constantly. So notice if that is coming up for you, and instead of being like, oh my gosh, I'm always dealing with this, this could be a possible access point for you to dive in deeper and to really get curious. Gosh, is there actually a breakthrough on the other side for me? Is there something that I can get free from here? Is there a certain way of thinking or a certain pattern that is hooking me, that's keeping me in this, that's keeping me stuck? Is this actually showing me that I'm ready for an entirely new experience? So that's what all these things are. Okay, number 5. Oh my gosh, super, I can raise my hand on this one. Irritation, annoyance, or anger. So if you notice yourself, again, it's like, imagine that ego that's like, I don't want to change. I want things to be how they are. And yet there's this deep, strong, wise party that's like, no, we're really ready for something bigger. We're ready for you to play a bigger game. We're ready for you to put yourself out there in a new way. You're ready for this. We're ready for this. And so it can make that current mental construct that's living in the current paradigm right now very, very uncomfortable, can make you irritated, can make you annoyed, can make you angry, feeling misunderstood, just feeling like, why is everyone getting on me, you know? And again, that projection, like, why is everyone getting on me, is oftentimes because you are ready yourself for something major, something big. Hey, Christina, so good to see you. Glad to have you with us here. Okay, so that's number 5. Number 4, we're getting kind of deeper and deeper into this, is just straight up avoidance. So avoidance, I find, is a little bit different from distraction, because avoidance is sometimes you just are actually, you're really aware of the fact that you're just avoiding that thing. And then what we do with avoidance, we will then find something to distract ourselves. We'll kind of like move to something else. Well, I'm not going to deal with that now. And oh, wait a second, look at this whole thing that I've got to go work out. So we kind of will do that. But avoidance is one of those things, if you just notice yourself, and what happens is what we resist persists. And so if we're avoiding something, it starts to get louder and louder, and then we've got to avoid it even more and more, which takes us into some of the patterns that you're going to hear of as we talk about 3, 2, and 1. So let's go there. So number 3, oh my gosh, this is such a huge one right here. So listen up to this one. This is when you get the rational voice coming in, the rational voice, the justified voice, the voice that says, I really can't go do that right now. I can't go confront that person right now because this is what has to happen first. Or I really can't put myself out there because, you know, because I first have to go and get a whole nother certification or go back to school and get my master's before I actually go out and put myself out there. Otherwise, people aren't going to take me seriously. So these are the things I have to do. Or, you know, I first have to complete this entire thing. I've got to like finish, you know, all of my, you know, education for the next 4 years before I go out. You know, these are the things that we do. We kind of like, we try to take a very, very rational mode. I have to do all this stuff. It sounds very, very justified. Here's the thing, is that the justified voice is our ego voice. Because when we have that deep knowing inside of us that's like ready to break through to another level, to another stratosphere of freedom, of expression, of confidence, of putting yourself out there, of shining your light, of being authentic, it feels totally irrational. It feels totally, totally irrational. Like we just can't, you know, it doesn't make sense. And yet there's this deep, strong, wise part of us. It's like, yeah, but this is what I have to do. To not do it is incongruent. To not do it is out of alignment. I've got to go and do this thing. And so when we have the rational voice, the voice that sounds very, very justified, very, you know, this is how it is, that is usually, again, that different flavor of the ego, not the anger, not the irritation, just a different flavor that's trying to keep us in what's familiar. So just notice that voice. Again, no judgment, just notice if it's there for you. This could be a sign that you are on the brink of a breakthrough. Breakthrough, I'm telling you. Okay, so number 2 is chaos. If you start experiencing any type of chaos in your life, any type of drama, any type of fire that all of a sudden needs to be put out. And this can happen, you know, there can be chaos that happens in our lives around medical issues. There could be chaos that happens in our lives around just family issues or around work. But like, it's fascinating how all of a sudden when we are on the brink of something that will just launch us into a new level of being and seeing and playing and existing and experiencing life and ourselves, how all of a sudden there'll be all of these things that just completely take us out, and that chaos can do that. Chaos can do that. So just notice if things in your life all of a sudden feel very, very chaotic. And actually, chaos is one of those things that busyness is a form of chaos. Distraction is a form of chaos. A lot of things that we've been talking about already are forms of chaos, and sometimes there's just really overt forms of chaos that take the form of drama and things that are going on that just completely allow you to not have to take that next step into what a deep part of you knows you're really ready to do. Okay, and then the number one thing that you can notice, these patterns, these resistance patterns, is any type of addiction. Any type of addiction, whether that's with food, whether that's with people pleasing, whether that's with social media, or with shopping, or with Netflix, or with sex and love, or relationships, or with alcohol, anything. Any type of addiction is an absolute resistance pattern. All of these things that I mentioned, especially addiction and chaos and things like this, what all those things are an attempt to slow down the rate of change, to slow down the rate of transformation. And so when we get scared, because, guess what? Launching into a new level of being, into a new level of freedom, into a new level of authenticity and putting yourself out there, all this stuff feels scary. It's new, it's unknown. And so we have this tendency to insert ways to slow that down. Sometimes even just like eating something will actually allow you to just calm down, and we'll create more waiting time. So when we put on weight, sometimes that creates more waiting time. It's really, really interesting how all the stuff plays out. But so just notice these things. And here is what I invite you to do. So again, number one, in really moving past this stuff, is to just recognize it, is to first just acknowledge it. Acknowledge that the resistance is there. And, I gave you top 10 ways to really recognize, am I in a resistant pattern right now? Is that what's going on? Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing that you want to do is you want to reframe it. So reframing it means that you don't see this as, oh my gosh, this is a sign that I'm never going to get this, and I'm always going to deal with this, and I'm just going to have to work on myself forever. This is actually a sign that you are right there. You're on the brink. You are on the brink. And that breakthrough, that next level of freedom, you're actually ready for it. It was so beautiful this weekend, being with the women in the Freedom Embodied Academy and witnessing each woman in her own process. And there were women, right when we went into the deepest part that has the deepest transformation, where on the other side, women get free from their food addiction. They come back to their authentic self. They find their voice. They develop this inner trust. They get free from all the things that are blocking them. It's this powerful, powerful process. And all these things were coming up all of a sudden. The mind was getting really, really active. All of a sudden, it's like all these urgent things that you have to go do, getting really, really sleepy, getting really resistant and annoyed and irritated. All this stuff just feels so uncomfortable. All these patterns were rearing up, and yet every single woman was able to recognize it and reframe it, knowing that it is a resistance pattern that is an indication that she's totally ready to take that next step. And so that brings us to number 3, which is to act in spite of the resistance. To act in spite of the resistance. This is really what separates the boys from the men and the girls from the women. This is really where, as my mentor Carolyn Mace would say, that you need to cultivate serious spiritual stamina, because this is the stuff that if you are able to not just go down the rabbit hole of resistance and just allow all of the delusions that it brings up to own you and to take you back to that pattern of, see, I'll never get this, I'm not enough, or I'm too much, or I'm different, or I'm just not the right kind, or it's just never going to work for me. And we stay in that and we hate it, but it's kind of familiar, so we kind of like it. If you are really, really willing to act in spite of that resistance, hey Amanda, so good to see you. This is what is going to carry you through. And you will be able to move through to the other side of whatever it is, whatever that threshold is between wherever you are right now and whatever that next level of freedom, of shift, of change, of transformation is for you. And this is so, so powerful. So there you have it. You first want to recognize that you're in resistance. You want to reframe the resistance for what it really is, and then you want to act in spite of the resistance. And of course, I know that's not the easiest thing to do, and I know that all those ladies at the Freedom Embodied Academy and in this retreat, you know, it helps to have, you know, a support. It helped to have a guide there. It helped to have someone there who is saying, okay, and really, you know, when you're in your stuff, and I do this too with my mentors, I'm in my stuff and I show up, I'm like, I'm so in my stuff, I can't see beyond this. All I can see is the block, and I need help to launch me beyond this. And so, you know, if that is something that you're afraid that when you get into your stuff, you might get lost in it, I totally, totally get that, because that happens to me too. That's why I have mentors. And if that is something that you feel like you want or need as well, then definitely find a mentor who you feel like gets you, who you feel like, you know, can hold that safe space for you so that you can move beyond wherever you are. Maybe that's me, maybe that's not me. It doesn't matter. But what really, really matters is that you feel like you have the support in place so that you can move through this step, and that you don't stay locked down by and held back by the resistance patterns. Because I promise you, if they are coming up, it is not a sign of your weakness. It is a sign that you are so, so ready. And I personally, for one, want to just know and see and witness the person who exists on the other side of whatever your resistance is right now, because that person is lighting up even more. That person is authentically shining and supporting even more people out there in the world. And that is the way that all of us are going to win. So I hope that today's video was supportive to you. And again, if you relate to any one of those 10 resistance patterns, just post a comment. No harm, no judgment. Really, it's supporting you in your process of acknowledgement so that you can get to the reframe and then act in spite of it anyway. And of course, if there's anything that I can do to support you, to help you, I'm always here. You can always book some time with me. You can go to getsupport.today. You can book some time with me, and it would be absolutely wonderful to help you to move past these sticking points. Okay, thanks again for taking this time out. I'll connect more with you next time. Bye for now. Mwah.